everybody. Welcome to Comic-Con at Home 2021. I'm Kristen Baldwin, TV critic for Entertainment Weekly, and this panel is for the AMC Plus original series Ultra City Smiths, the show whose central mystery unfolds via the stop-motion animation of baby dolls who are repurposed as a grown-up cast of characters. You heard it right. It's got mystery, it's got stop-motion animation, and grown-up baby dolls. The first two episodes are currently available on AMC Plus, but for those who haven't had a chance to watch, let's take a quick look at the series.
No one's dreams come true in Ultra City.
This city.
Yeah, she don't care.
Detective David Mills.
New kid?
What do you have?
Carpenter K. Smith went out for a pack of cigarettes. Gone 7 hours, no sign.
You did forget to ask me one thing, cops. You forgot to ask me if he smokes. 'Cause he doesn't.
What do you know about our last bright hope?
Carpenter Smith, humanitarian, super guy, gonna make the city a gentler place.
A gentler Ultra City? Yeah, well, not gonna happen now.
It's a hard town.
And the paper said it's gotten worse in Ultra City. So here I am, trying to make a difference.
Are you dancing?
Yeah, I dance my demons down now and then.
R-O-O-K-I-E, I know S-T about this C-I-T-Y, and I'm trying to solve an M-R-D-E-R.
Man, you're an intense cop.
Got 8 people here of interest. You're all sons or daughters of Ultra City's wealthiest man, Carpenter K. Smith. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't, but you're all heirs to his considerable wealth.
This morning, Ultra City mourns the loss of maybe its last good man. Could this be the spark that sets the city on fire? Or will justice come before all hell breaks loose around here?
Shoot my shirt. Rookie move, new kid.
We've got a great group here with us today to discuss all things Ultra City Smiths. Please welcome creator, executive producer, writer, and co-director Steve Conrad.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you.
Co-director David Brooks.
Hey, Kristen. Thanks for having us.
And stars Jimmi Simpson.
Hi, friends.
Chris Conrad.
Hello.
Luis Guzmán.
Hola.
Hana Mae Lee.
Hello.
Tim Heidecker. And Debra Winger.
World.
Hello. So, Steve, let's start with you. Where did the idea for this show come from, and why were repurposed baby dolls your medium of choice?
Well, the show that I was hanging out with some friends who worked in the art department on our former TV series Patriot, Jeff Dieter and Tom Glenn, and they're longtime art department guys in the movie scene in Chicago. And Jeff had just out of a means to make art, had started to take these baby dolls and turn them into grown-ups. And there's just a wide array of races and body types and haircuts. And I saw them in his garage, and instantly I thought, well, this is, to see a baby costume as an adult, it draws out the baby in the adult. Like male pattern baldness on a baby doll, you feel it, like it hurts. Middle-aged weight gain, bad haircuts, over makeup. It all just was louder than real life. And I thought, well, here it is. I've been trying for a very long time to find an aesthetic for animation, which is, it's so important if your show can convey some hard work in its the manufacturing of the show. And stop motion does that, to say the least. But this particularly just felt like a new way to look at grown-up life. And we talk about the show, around the show, it's adult entertainment for former children, we say. And the show's rated R, even though the characters used to be baby dolls. And then I got to corral some of my former friends and colleagues, and then some some new people to bring this show to life.
Yes, and Jimmy, you played Detective David Mills. He's new in Ultra City. He's got some quirks, like he's addicted to limes and he sometimes forgets his shirt. Tell us more about him.
Well, he does. He's got some very specific addictions, and limes is one of them. And it's just delightful how Steve wove that into the reality of this human. But he's also got some coping mechanisms that we could all learn from. Like in a high stress situation, he has to dance it down, and he'll dance it down. And that's how it kind of deals with stuff. So, episode, I think it's 1, there's a dance off, me and John C. Reilly. And that's just a hoot. But Detective Mills is a rookie and he's coming in and he has big plans to add his heart and soul to the police force, especially now that there's a big issue that needs solving and needs someone with a lot of commitment. So he's going into it, but he starts making these connections throughout the story that, without giving too much away, become bigger and bigger, and I guess you could say consume him to a degree. And it's one of the most fleshed out characters I've played, and it's a baby doll with a stubble, and plus he sings. Everybody kind of sings and will throughout the series, if that's okay to say. I don't tease a lick, do I?
You can tease lick.
So his rookie song, and he's just like coming to terms with what it's like to be in the big city. Man, I'm standing in a corner, like at 9 o'clock this morning. Blind guy's waiting, so I asked him, would you like some help to cross? He said, no, thanks.
Whoa, buddy!
Wow!
Oh, man,
that's awesome.
From the cast that's with us today, Jimmy has a song in the first season. Tim has a song, but everybody else has got a song around the corner.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Debra, Trish McSapphire is a celebrated actress who has a dark secret that's about to be exposed. What interested you about playing her?
See, Kristen, there lies the difference. You see celebrated, I see disgraced. I think Steve has always known how to get me in like 3 little words, he'll write, like I can look at a script if it's got disgraced, pancakes, and then fill in the third. I'm pretty much in. So 2 out of 3. But I can relate to what Steve said about the baby doll aspect. This just sort of took my breath away because they're not dolls that they're dolls that I in my lifetime relate to. They were not exactly perfect. They were dolls that I remember from my childhood, which dates me, but they were a little plumper. They didn't have perfect hair. We had something called a Ginny doll, and that's what they reminded me of. And I guess when I got to the part where someone's arm was on backwards, I just thought, this is a place I've never really stretched to, I want to say that I'm capable of doing anything, and so now I can. So
Excellent.
I think, just got to be in something where you can do anything.
Yes. So I want to talk about one of Ultra City's notorious power couples. We've got Rodrigo Smalls and Christina. Luis, tell us a little bit about Rodrigo first.
Well, Rodrigo is the man. He kind of runs the town, runs the drugs, but he's into disco and he's in love with the love of his life. But the guy has a soft spot, and doesn't ever really want to be forced into hurting anybody unless he really totally and absolutely has to. But I guess he's moving towards like, we got to get out of here because they're about to have a baby. And I think they might be looking to maybe moving to Vermont. I don't know.
And Hana, so far we know Christina is expecting a baby and she loves Ultra City Super Fudge Chunk ice cream. And she's in love with Rodrigo. What more can you tell us about her?
I think Louise said it perfectly. I feel like before you have kids, you kind of, go with the punches. But when you're expecting, you want to protect your baby, you want to protect your family. And Rodrigo, like, you want him to not be in harm's way anymore. So this city, I mean, it's a pretty amazing. Ultra City is like a very layered, dangerous, exotic, fun, crazy. But with all that, like, they want to get out. So although, like, I'm assuming we all met there and life is, living in the fast lane is just kind of coming into a, 35 speed limit. So I think that with the relationship with Rodrigo and Christina, it's moving on to the next step of building a real home where you're not worried that dad's not coming home or someone's going to come and do a nice little hit on everybody. Plus, I mean, like, this is like the Conradian experience. I mean, Conrad brings not just interesting stories, not just interesting characters, but just how he really paints everything with the detail and the mystery and the, like, I don't know if pizzazz is the right word, but like, it just has so much depth, and it's beautiful and sparkly, and it's just a crazy world, but so interesting, the Ultra City. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of going on beyond my character, but everyone's character is just so multi-layered and just really full.
Yeah.
And literally, Christina's very full with another baby.
I love the whole idea too of the doll aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Because I too grew up with some of these dolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we didn't have Sharpies back in the day, but we had crayons. We had crayons, and I just think it's a great, interesting concept, and I'm looking forward to it.
The dolls is so cool because it's not like a, like an animation thing. I mean, like, it's Trish, like what Debra said, with the arm backwards, like, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's just so fun what you can kind of get away with the humor and also the depth with baby dolls. It's so great.
Yeah. So before we get to a couple of the other characters, David, I'd like to talk to you about making this show. It's got to be quite challenging. How does one direct a group of repurposed baby dolls?
Oof, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it all starts with the voice records and the voice cast. Steve and I do so much work ahead of time to get the storyboards right and the animatics and the timing and like storytelling, right? And then we get these talented people in a record booth or their closets, depending on what year it is, right? And then all that stuff ends up culminating on set with an animator, and some other weird magic comes to life. Like, it's already magic. We could just stick the doll in front of a camera and light it, and it's beautiful and it's great. But with the voice records and the way we've edited it, the animatics come together. The magic moment with the animator is like this sacred thing. We close the curtain and we just have a moment to talk about the scene and work through stuff. And honestly, I'm getting so much feedback from these animators. Everybody has their favorite character to animate, and it isn't because of the way the character looks, and they do look great. It's because one animator loves Tim's performance or Debra's performance. Everybody, I've had different animators tell me just about every main character, they love that specific character. It's because there's so much energy and so much to work with the voice cast, with the performances. Yeah.
So Chris, your character is described as a detective / sensualist, which is very intriguing. Can you tell us a little bit more about Detective Nico Onassis and how he fits into this story?
Yeah, sure. And it is a great description. I'm trying to remember where I heard anybody described as a sensualist, and it's again, such a great way to that Steve sort of set the plate for me to step on the field with this guy, knowing that that's part of it. But we meet him. I think he's a sort of a blue collar, knock around, street detective, good guy, good heart. We're catching him at the phase in his life where he thinks he's on his downward slide, where he probably feels like he's got more yesterdays than tomorrows. And we literally catch him at the spot where he's lifting weights. I actually probably shouldn't give it away, but he has a moment, a physical moment, where he realizes that he's entering what he's called is the fade of life, where things are going to start breaking a little bit, and that causes a little bit of a light bulb to go off. And for him, Nico, and as being a sensualist, is sort of pulled by both men and women and pleasure in general, and that enters into his job and how well he can perform his job. And I think he's got sort of a light bulb moment where if he can stop that and cap that by getting married to either a woman or a man, he might be able to focus a little bit better on being a detective.
Yeah. If you don't mind my jumping in, the way it all adds up and makes fuller sense is he's been handpicked by this corrupt politician to help lead this investigation into a murder that the mayor and the police captain don't want solved. So they picked him because they thought that he's an indifferent cop because he's generally just trying to get dates. But they picked him on a bad week because he's had an illumination and his life is changing. He's become a very good cop. So Tim's character picked him thinking he wasn't going to be able to solve this case, but rather than that, he's charging ahead and gathering clues, and he's become a real threat to the powers that be in Ultra City.
So speaking of the powers that be, Tim, you play Mayor Kevin DeMaximum. He's a guy who likes to give the city the finger. His campaign slogan is "Keep it raw." What appealed to you about this guy?
You know, the money, really, just to be paid to work. Steve didn't want me to know anything about the character, so I recorded all my lines randomly out of order, one word at a time. I don't know. No, I mean, listen, I am such a fan of Steve. I couldn't tell you how big that show Patriot was for me. Especially, I think I watched it over the pandemic. I had heard it was great and I never saw it. And then we were watching it and my wife and I, our minds were just blown. We just were like, this is the greatest, pardon my language, show I've seen since I can remember. And then I get an email from him being like, can you do this thing? So it was just, he could have had me record the alphabet. I mean, it was just like the greatest news. It seemed right up my alley. It's a corrupt, scheming, lecherous, politician. So it was really natural for me to slide into that sleazy style of delivery.
He got a lot of Elton John in him too for a corrupt.
There was a bit of that and a bit of Thurston Howell. We were talking a bit about that little upper mid-Atlantic kind of back of the throat kind of thing.
And I think more people know this than used to because Tim put out a very good record this year. But Tim's a very good singer. So
well, you put me to the test because the song that I had to sing was about as Broadway, as hard a song as I've ever had to sing. It's one of those songs where you're like, where are you supposed to breathe? There's so many. It's like I don't know how to do this, but I think it came out pretty good.
Yeah, it's
so good.
It's a smash, and it's our season finale curtain closer. So getting that right was a big deal.
Wait, so raise your hand if your character had a song this season. 1, 2.
I don't know. Steve,
we were all singing.
Was it a song that Nico does with?
No, not a bona fide.
Not a full-on song. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there people that are in the cast that are not on this Zoom that are singing in the show?
Yes. Dax Shepard has a song. Kristen Bell has a song. Damon Harriman has a song. And
does John have a song?
John's got a song in episode 2, the King of the Night.
There's a voice.
Yeah,
beautiful voice.
He did great too. But there's a song in every episode, so if they allow us to keep making the show, everybody's going to get a song.
I mean, it's a musical, right, Steve? Like you consider it a musical?
I do, yeah. I mean, insofar as the world just kind of stops and everybody sings and dances, which, you know, it was sort of like that in Patriot from one guy's perspective, but in this one, the whole city can join in on the dance numbers. And the songs, you know, they reveal an awful lot about what a character wants in a way that can be extraordinary if it all clicks. But, you know, there's so many details in the show. In live action, you take so many things for granted, like curbs and fire hydrants and clouds and shoelaces. And with Ultra City, you have to design all that stuff. And Tom Glenn and Jeff Dieter, who I mentioned at the beginning of the panel, they are very important to the show. They're both producers, and they have a real strong hand in creating the look of the dolls, the costumes, and the look of the city. So on a daily basis, they're creating. So we've been able to go from Jeff's garage to this, you know, night when hopefully a large number of people will see what Jeff cooked up in his closet in Chicago, his garage rather.
So for the actors, I want to hear about when you first saw your character, your doll, and how did seeing what your character looked like sort of influence or inform your performance? Debra, did you get to see Trish before you recorded?
I don't think it was before. Maybe it was right before. Yeah. So it didn't influence me in that I think it was in the same call as we started working, but it just made sense. And, you know, it probably is, I should have probably had some pushback, you know, it almost doesn't seem right that I don't disagree with this guy. I gotta work on that, Steve. I really gotta work on that because I have a rep to maintain.
Louis' doll is based on a picture that Louis sent me of him when he was maybe 19 years old and had this great haircut and this cool style. So Louis' doll is Louis.
Louis, are you pleased with how your doll came out?
Oh, absolutely. You kidding me? That's like a OGGO throwback. You know what I mean? Because I sent Steve this picture and I had a throw that probably wouldn't fit on the screen right now. You know? So that was the style and the flavor of the day. I think that's back in like 1975.
That was a fro. They could have called you Eclipse back then.
Oh yeah. In my next
But it had
life.
some sheen to it. It had some jerry curl to it, right? What was in there?
Yeah. I used to find like a lot of stuff in there, but you know, I'm glad that Steve used that because, you know, when you think about all these dolls and what they represent and how a doll could just be this great character and this great persona and this great image, you know, yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Steve.
You know, we have kind of a special thing, this group, because we've all worked on other things together, and I'm able to. I mean, I wrote that character for Louis. I love him, and you can see how much I care about him with the care we take to make sure that the character comes across. And I was honored to be able to make it look like Louis. But it's true of everybody in the cast and those that I hadn't worked with before. We had a challenge this year because we couldn't be in person, but to a person, everybody gave it their all, which isn't always the case with this sort of thing. I mean, they are largely on board for us to be together again. I think that's what we get out of this, is we get to all work together and be together. You can sometimes see that on screen when a show clicks that way. Not always, but I wanted to make sure that was true of this one too, because they're not the delivery system directly for the dolls. Their physicality, I can't photograph our group. It has to start with the voices and then they have to take it from there. But I know them all so well that when we work with the animators, I'm able to fill in some of the gaps. So it's been very beneficial that we're not strangers, or in the case of Tim, being a lifelong fan of Tim. Everybody we came to who was new to me, like Tom Waits, I just crossed my fingers and thought, I'm just going to ask and let's see. And
Tom Waits, those types of people.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, there's a moment in episode 1 where your character just starts dancing because he's dancing his demons down. And I'm wondering, when you record that, and generally for the actors, like, do you find yourself acting out the physicality of what the characters are supposed to be doing? When I was wondering if you were dancing in the booth or wherever you were recording.
Indubitably, I tend to like, whether it's VO for stop motion or animation or looping for live action, I can't help but be recreating the entire situation the whole time. If there is footage, people find it amusing. So keeping the mic the right distance, that I had to groove while doing it, because otherwise I wouldn't know how to deliver it. So the grooving is essential, I think, when dancing down your demons.
Yes, and Chris, what about you? Do you sort of act it out while you're recording, or what's your approach to creating the physicality in your voice?
I do the same thing every time. I lay down on my couch and have a cigarette, and I just, whatever happens, happens. No, I very much am the same way as Jimmy. I have to get into it. I have to actually do it. So if Steve's written something that the character's lifting weights or something, I have to physically go through what it would take to feel like it just feels way more authentic. And it brings out naturally it brings out something I think otherwise you might sound like you're really, faking it. But I have to do the same thing. I have to physically, as much as I can, I have to try to physically recreate it.
Anyone else?
That is why you're so yoked right now, Chris? Because of the scene in episode 2?
Yeah, just that one scene.
I guess the only thing I would add is Steve was really great about, since I was sitting out here in, the mountains trying to figure out, how to do this and how to imagine. You never really want to get inside of Steve Conrad's head, but you get as close as you think is safe to survive. But, the background that Dave Brooks is sitting in front of is sort of where one needed to be transported. And sometimes I can just close my eyes and listen to Conrad talk. And I felt like I was walking down those streets in one little spotlight. And I don't know if any of this is real, and it's dark and I'm sad. So I don't know how that happens. I didn't have to lift any weights. I didn't get to sing a song or smoke cigarettes. Actually, I get around sad a lot, but.
Hana, what about you? What was your process like recording?
I just close my eyes and hope for the best. No, I really wanted to bring a lot of kind of depth to my character. She seemed a little like party going, but I kind of wanted to bring that worry that expecting mother might have with like a crime boss husband. So I really when I saw the doll, which wasn't till I came in to do the finale, I was like, oh, I should have been a more down fool, I was like, yeah, this vodka could have come out a little bit more. But I really did want to kind of keep her a little bit in that kind of what's gonna happen kind of world.
Right.
Hopefully Steve liked it and I'm still in the show, but
Hana does other voices in the show too.
Did you end up using some?
Yeah, so the audience can discover that on their
own. But yeah, I mean, with Steve, all his characters that I've been so privileged to play, they're so different from each other, and he's so open to receiving what kind of interpretation it is, and then if he gives you a tweak or no, it just takes it to another level of just marinated goodness. I loved it.
So Tim, I think you just saw your doll for the first time, maybe before we taped, or maybe that was the first time you saw him up close.
I think I think it was shared with me. It was shared with my reps. I don't, my reps.
There it is.
They look at it. They say, we don't need to pass this along. No. Yeah, it's awesome. Listen, I mean, you could talk about this shit. Like the best thing about this to me was like, there's a version of this whole idea that's on paper that's like, oh, that's going to be terrible. But knowing who's behind it, knowing what a genius Steve is and the people he surrounds himself with, where you just kind of like fall backwards into this trust feeling of like, he's going to make the right choices to make whatever this is as great as it, can be. But I love scary ideas like that. Like, wow, that could go in the wrong direction really quickly. So I can't wait to see it. I mean, I know it's just going to be great. So
David,
I know.
For sure. David, what is the timeline on creating each episode? Like once you're actually shooting, how long does it take to finish the shooting and then, assemble it?
Well, we're block shooting, so we're shooting across all 6 episodes. We started shooting in late January and finished in mid-July. So if you're watching this, we just finished shooting. How'd
it go?
Could I ask what is the scale of what we're seeing behind you? Like, what does that look? How far back from that street are you?
Wouldn't it be great if I just like right here just knocked it over?
No.
I'm probably 4 feet from this. We're playing with 1/6 scale and 1/8 scale. So at 1/8 scale, the puppet's, 6 foot tall. David Mills is going to be 9 inches tall. And then everything, all the sets are scaled from there. But this was lightning fast for stop motion. Steve and I started working, well, all the work Steve put into this before we even got a green light from AMC Plus. But we had, from September to January, get everything put together. And then, from late January till mid-July to shoot everything. And then there's sort of a waterfall with post-production and just to get everything out.
Yeah. Well,
very quick.
The animation does not go quickly. Well, the dance number that you saw in the first episode, David, how long did that take all in to shoot?
It was spread across probably 2.5 months.
And on the stage that is our Ultra City, we're shooting many stages at the same time. So there are multiple Davids and Nikos, and there are animators at each table working around the clock. But at the end of the day, they each will have animated, just seconds worth of the show on a daily basis. It's painstaking, but you get all this beauty that comes from paying attention to something that communicative, the way people move. It's so storytelling.
So there's a great amount of talent here, but there's also, there's so many stars who are involved in the show who aren't here today. Steve, can you tell us a little bit about some of the other cast members that take place?
Yeah, Tim mentioned that John Riley is part of our cast, and John's a friend of mine. We have worked together before, but it has been a while. So I wrote this character for John, and I had a sense of how much fun he might have with it. So John's in our cast. Damon Harriman, who was in our Perpetual Grace cast. BB Newworth. It's a shame she has so many scenes with Debra that they couldn't perform them in person this year, but maybe next year. And I'm going to leave somebody out, David Brooks. So when I do that, chime in. Tom Waits, Julian Barrett, I have been a fan of for such a long time, and his role becomes tremendously important next season. And I wanted to introduce him this year so the audience knew that this person was special. And Julian is a special performer. So Julian's part of our cast too.
Excellent.
And then the gang that you see here, I really lean on. That I have, gotten such a shorthand with this gang, and they, although I have a sense of what their powers are, they continue to impress and amaze me and surprise me with the depth and richness of their performances. To a person in this cast. It's true of my brother. My brother, you would think I could see everything coming with Chris, but he still surprises me. But we did a little swap this year where Chris generally is not wearing a shirt in our TV series. It's true. It's
Or
true.
pants.
Yeah, sometimes not pants either. But this year it's Jimmy's character who likes to take his shirt off.
Or forgets to put it on, right? So
We just had rookie nerves.
yeah. The attention to detail on these little sets is so astounding. There's a sign in a shop window that says underwear, old and new.
Oh.
And there's a movie theater marquee advertising a film called German Shepherds Humping People in Uniform, which is amazing. David, do you have a favorite sort of background gag?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had been prepped for this. There's so many good gags. There's like all these little moments that we've built in. There's an iguana in Jimmy's song. You should probably rewatch the first episode to see the iguana and the callback to a couple minutes earlier. But there's like all this personal stuff, like personal graffiti little bits in the background and shop names. Nikki's Junk Shop, you know, she's our assistant art director here on set. So all those little things I think really bring this to life. But a lot of that stuff came from Tom and Jeff, actually, kind of with Steve, you know, creating a lot of this really fun, you know, sort of background for us to populate our world. Yeah, Oddballs Antique Shop's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, that movie you mentioned, Kristen, I should say it's playing in the red light district. It's not.
Yes. Yeah. It's not a family film. No, definitely not. So finally, Steve, what can you tease about episode 3, which is coming up this Thursday?
Episode 3, Street Hustler Boy does a musical number called Newspaper Pants. He's found himself, you'll remember that he has to now rent pants because he sold his only pair of pants. And the situation worsens to the extent where he now is making pants out of newspapers. And he sings a little song about it called Newspaper Pants. And Street Hustle Boy is played by Damon Harriman, who's not with us, but he's one of our dear friends. And I had a weird moment because I kind of had to pick between Damon and Chris Conrad for that character. And they both have such wonderful and deep skills. And then I finally thought of Nico, and I thought, okay, that's Chris. So sometimes we have a little confusion of talent around here because you don't. There's so much, and I mean I'm referring to the cast here. You know, I can't write that many roles for this number of really great people, but then you do. I wouldn't want to do it without my brother, so I sat down and dreamed up Nico. Yeah, so there's a pretty cool little song in 3 that Damon performed very well.
Excellent.
I just want to say I always imagined Chris in newspaper pants anyway.
I did too.
That picture will be coming with the picture of my son will be coming to you, Deborah, with me and with some form of newspaper pants.
Appreciate that.
Keep them dry. Don't let them get wet.
When I talked to Steve, I was like, after I read it, I was like, and Chris Conrad's definitely Street Hustler Boy. He's like, no, that's Damon Harriman. And then when I read his character, it's just like, yes, somehow that works even better. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, thank you
Sensualist.
all. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and thanks to all of you at home for watching the Ultra City Smiths Comic-Con panel. The first 2 episodes are currently available on AMC Plus, and new episodes drop every Thursday. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Bye,
Enjoy
everybody.
it.
Take care, everybody. Cheers.